Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Keisha the Sugar Muse, and today I'm going to be showing you how I make cinnamon rolls. So here are the ingredients. I have some bread flour, I have warm milk, I have about 3 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of oil, I have a cup of sugar, an extra half cup of flour in case our dough needs it, 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk, a teaspoon of salt, and 2.5 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So right now we're gonna go ahead and get started on our dough. Okay, so we're making the dough, and to our mixing bowl we're going to add our flour, your sugar, salt, and the other side of the flour, yeast. Give it a stir. And I'm gonna add the milk, vanilla, and eggs. We're gonna mix this around for about 2 minutes. Okay, so now everything's been moistened. There's no dry pockets of flour. So now we're gonna add our butter and oil. You could use all butter, you could use all oil, just use the same amounts, whichever one you decide to use. And we're going to let it mix some more until the butter and the oil are incorporated into the dough. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the mixer. As you can see, our dough has gone from a little clump to being somewhat liquidy. So at this point, while we're mixing, we're going to add our extra flour in by the tablespoonful. So you're gonna get your little tablespoon measure and you're going to add it in by the spoonful. And what you want is for the dough to clear the sides of the bowl instead of being in the liquid state it's in right now. We don't want to add too much flour because then you'll have tough dough and it'll be dry and unappealing. So we just want to add just enough for your dough to come together a little bit more than it has right now. So I'm going to start back the mixer and I'm going to start adding by the tablespoonful until our dough comes together a little bit more. Okay, so I'm stop the mixer, and as you can see, it's a lot less fluid than it was before. So I'm gonna scrape it off of the dough hook, and I'm going to let it mix for about 10 minutes until the dough is soft and smooth. It may take less time for you, it may take more. You just want a smooth, soft dough. So we're gonna let it go between 7 and 10 minutes. So my dough has been mixing for about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like. As you can see in the bowl, the dough is somewhat stuck around the edge of the bowl. Now, because this is a very rich dough, which means it has a high proportion of sugar and fat to flour, the dough is going to be quite soft and quite tacky. Now, as you can see, I can touch the dough and it doesn't stick to my fingers, but it will stick to surfaces and it will stick to the bowl. So all you have to do is help it out a little bit. So now I'm just going to scrape the edges like that. And y'all, I love my little flexible Ateco dough scraper thingy. And I'm just gonna bring all my dough together. Like so. So this is the dough. It is complete. It's tacky, but it's very soft. So now I'm going to cover my dough and I'm going to let it double in volume. Now because this dough has a high proportion of sugar, it may take slightly longer than it would a leaner dough, but that's okay because in the end it'll be worth it. So I'm going to cover this well and I'm going to let it rise someplace warm, and then after that I'll let you know what to do next. Okay, so here's my dough, and if you'll notice, it has certainly doubled in volume. So this is what we want. We want it nice and puffy. If you remember, before I set it to rise, the dough was down at the bottom of the bowl, and now it's about 3 or 4 inches from the top of the bowl. So you can also tell when you poke it, it deflates like that. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my dough and I'm gonna stick it covered into the freezer for about 30 to 45 minutes. Now I do that because instead of flouring my surface, I chill my dough so that it's a little easier to work with. Because this is such a rich and soft dough, it's going to stick to the counter when I go to roll it out and put my cinnamon filling on it. So I'm gonna chill my dough. You should chill your dough too. You don't have to. What you can do is simply flour your surface that you're gonna roll your dough out on, and then roll your dough out. Okay, so here's my chilled dough. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to very lightly flour my surface. And I'm actually using the flour that was left over from my original measurements. So that way you don't end up using too much flour. Now we're just gonna roll out the dough. Give it a rough rectangular shape, so that'll help when you're rolling it, so that you'll go ahead and get it in that shape. And you want it to be at least 1.5 feet. Dough is chilled, which makes it significantly less sticky than it was before. And easier to roll out. Okay, so as you can see, I have my rough rectangle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my butter here. I have about 5 tablespoons of really soft butter. Some people melt it and brush it on, but I like to use softened butter because, well, I just like that better. Go ahead and get all the butter off the wrapper there. So now I'm gonna use my spatula and I'm going to spread the butter. You want to leave a slight border here at this edge, so that way when you roll the dough, you'll have an area that you can pinch. So actually you're gonna leave it along the edge that you're rolling toward. Okay, so now that we have the butter all nicely spread, it's time to add the sugar. So I'm just going to generously sprinkle this, except for that border that I was telling you about earlier. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you where not to go. Okay, so now I'm gonna roll up the dough. And what you're gonna do is start from one edge. And you're gonna kind of roll and tuck. And as you go, just kind of squeeze. Give it a little squeeze. Even it out. Gather up that last end pull all the dough back towards you. And pinch the seam. That's why we didn't want any sugar on the seam, because then it would make the pinching more difficult and it's less likely to hold. So I'm just going to tuck that little end in to make it neater. And I'm going to squeeze the length so that everything is kind of nicely rolled. Okay, so I have my dough here rolled up, and I'm going to make little indentations in the dough to show exactly where I want to cut it. I'm trying to end up with 12 rolls. So I'm going to start in the middle and then divide from there. Okay, so I have my marks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take dental floss. Now you don't want to use dental floss that has minty flavor, because then you'll have minty flavored cinnamon rolls. I'm going to take my floss and I'm going to slide it under the dough, and where the mark is, I'm going to bring the floss across each other, so that way it's going across the dough like almost like I'm going to tie it. And I'm going to squeeze it and let it cut through the dough. So I slide through again to where my mark is. So right here is about where it should be. And I'm gonna do the same thing. Cross it like I'm gonna tie it, squeeze it, bring it through. So I have all my dough cut. Now I'm going to spray my baking pan, and I'm going to place the dough into the pan. Just a light spray. You could even butter it if you want. Spraying is just a little bit faster. So I'm gonna take my cinnamon rolls, try and keep them as together as possible. I'm gonna place them in rows of 3. Now those end ones that have that little interesting end, I place that end down when I put them into the pan. So that way the pretty side is up, just like that. And place that last one, see that little funny end from it being on the end? Make sure you place that side down. And just give them a little press. Now what I'm gonna do is cover this with plastic wrap, set it someplace warm, and let it rise. You could even proof this overnight in the fridge and bake the next day, but since I want these now, I'm going to let them proof until they're doubled in size, and then we're gonna bake them. So I'll be back when it's time to bake. Here's my cinnamon rolls, and as you can see, they have risen to the occasion. They have filled the pan. That means that the yeast is doing its job. And now I'm going to bake them. You're looking for them to be thoroughly cooked, and you want them to be golden brown on top. 20 to 25 minutes at 350. So while the cinnamon rolls are baking, I'm going to show you how to make the cream cheese glaze. So what I have here is 4 ounces, or about half a block of cream cheese. It's best to use room temperature, but mine's kind of cold. We're going to use 4 tablespoons or half a stick of melted butter and 187 grams of powdered sugar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften this cream cheese by beating it with my little mixer here. So now I'm going to add approximately a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to add our salt. Most of the powdered, well, no, we're going to head out all of the powdered sugar. And I'm going to add my melted butter. So now we're going to start beating this on low, because if you beat it on high, you might get a powdered sugar dust cloud. Everything is nicely incorporated. You want to make sure you don't have any lumps of butter or cream cheese. Now you could easily leave it at this consistency and just spread it on, but I like my frosting a little bit thinner. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. You could use milk. Mix it on low, and there you have it. There's your cream cheese glaze. So here's cinnamon rolls. I don't usually cover the whole pan at once because everybody likes a different amount of frosting on their cinnamon rolls. So basically what I do is take a cinnamon roll out of the pan, put it on a plate, and let everyone pick their own frosting amount. So I'm just gonna get one out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please come back next week. I'll have a brand new video up for you. Thanks for stopping by my kitchen again. Thanks for watching my videos. I will see you soon. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye.